What is going on, guys? My name is Pure Noble. Thank you for coming to another video. Now this video is going to be dropping on season 4 release. That's going to be on Thursday, May 29th. So if you are seeing this video, hello, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Pure Noble, and let's talk about the season 4 update today. Okay, so as always, we read through the patch notes and we wanted to look at all the little details that season 4 has to offer, but at the same time, I don't want to give you guys a 20 to 30 minute video trying to explain every single detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize everything for you and just give you the main major changes that's going to be coming with season 4. So we're going to be talking about the map updates on Verdansk. We're going to be talking about playlist updates, new modes, new weapons, new features, main weapon adjustments that are going to be happening with season 4, and then if there is any anti-cheat changes or any progress of improving this anti-cheat. But before we start the video, guys, if you do enjoy the video, if you do enjoy the content, please drop a like to the video. It's going to help tremendously in the algorithm. And if you do reach to the end of the video and you still enjoyed the content, please drop a sub to the channel, join the community. We would love to have you here. Alrighty, so starting with the first POI addition, not change, but an addition to Verdansk, it's going to be the Overlook. Now, the Overlook is kind of like the Plaza. If you remember from Warzone 1, the Plaza was like a skyscraper. The Overlook is also a skyscraper, but it's not a completed skyscraper. You're going to have 2 additional cranes that's going to be in the north and south side of the tower. That's going to allow you to operate the cranes and access the tower vertically using zip lines, getting up into the cranes first. The Overlook is also going to have 4 additional horizontal zip lines that's going to be able to access other nearby buildings from the Overlook. Now, this is very interesting. I'm wondering if they're just testing horizontal zip lines, that if players do enjoy this type of access, that they're going to be adding horizontal zip lines to other parts of the map rather than just downtown. That's my guess. But besides the skyscraper, the additional cranes that you can operate and have additional horizontal zip lines in downtown, no other additional changes on Verdansk or no additional changes on Rebirth Island, which is kind of sad because we're season 4 into the Black Ops 6 Warzone era and we still only have 2 maps to play on. It is insane. Now moving on to the playlist update, starting with Big Battle Royale, you're only going to have duos and quads. Trios was already removed for Warzone rank, and now they also remove solos because they're moving solos into casual BR mode. So now Battle Royale casual is going to be quads and solo modes. So again, I think with this update there's going to be a lot of testing that's happening. They're adding an additional casual mode, and even in season they're going to be adding resurgence casuals. So as you can see, we already have plunder, we already have this limited time mode called Clash, which is like a 52v52 team deathmatch on Verdansk, so that's going to be interesting. And now we're going to have 2 modes in Battle Royale casuals, including a 3rd mode for resurgence casuals. Now I don't know if they're just receiving really good feedback from the player base with new players and returning players that they want to add more casual modes in, or they're actually bleeding Warzone players and they're trying to find a way to fill that gap via adding bots to the lobbies. And also in season they're going to be bringing back resurgence rank. So on top of Warzone rank, they're going to have resurgence rank. I think this is going to be the very first season where there's going to be 3 different types of rank modes that you can play: multiplayer rank, big BR rank, and resurgence rank. So that's going to be very interesting for a lot of the players who like to grind these rank levels for all the modes. Now moving on to the new weapons that are coming with season 4, we have the LC10, which is an SMG. It is battle pass locked on page 3. Then we're gonna have a returning AR, which is the FFAR, that's gonna be locked on battle pass page 6. And then we also have the SX model 7, but that's gonna be event reward unlocked. Now I wouldn't even consider this new weapons that are coming with season 4, because essentially we've already had the LC10, we already had the FFAR, we've already had the Crixie, we already had the PPSH. It seems like with each season they want to hit that nostalgia memory, and I guess it makes sense because they catered a lot of their prestige emblems, their titles around reminiscings for the past Black Ops title. Now this is cool and all. I like the nostalgia. I like the fact they brought back Verdansk, right? I'm just really hoping they're not overplaying the tune of bringing back these old weapons and maps and hashing it as new content, because they're hiding under the guise that it's, we want to hit the nostalgia excitement for these players. And now moving on to the new attachments, we're going to start with the G Grip foregrip. Essentially it's a vertical foregrip that's going to give you additional additional firing stability, horizontal recoil control, and a bit of a tighter hipfire spread when you're transitioning from hipfire to ADS. Then we also have the Strider 22 3-round burst mod. Essentially just turns a single shot fire pistol into a 3-round burst with additional recoil control, and then also increases the damage output because it's a 3-round burst. Then we also have the SVD full auto mod, which converts the single shot into a full auto functionality, which increases the damage output of the SVD. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Every time that we see these single weapons turn into full auto, it increases the fire rate, sure, but it also overall decreases damage output and lowers the TTK to just kind of mids, if I'm being completely honest. Then we also have the TR2 CQB auto conversion, which is kind of the same thing. It converts a semi-shot rifle into a full auto functionality, but the fire rate is increased up to SMG fire rate speed. So that's gonna be interesting. I'm assuming it's just gonna turn into a full auto. Hits like marshmallows, but hey, it's full auto. Now they made some buffs to certain equipments like the flash grenade and the concussion grenade, which I really like because it provides a little bit more viability for players to use this. In my opinion, in my experience, I don't see these used enough. The buff for the flash grenade is the flash angle is increased by 20%, meaning that you need to turn further away from the device to mitigate its effect. And then we also have the concussion grenade, which increases stun maximum duration for an X amount of time. And what I really like about this next change, and I think out of the entire update, this is probably going to be the one where they really thought about it through, is that on top of buffing the stun and flash equipment, they also changed the veteran perk. The veteran significantly increases resistance to flash and stun, so that way there's no overpowered equipment. They said, okay, you know what, if we're gonna increase the viabilities of this equipment, the perk that counters it, we're gonna make it an even harder counter. That way the veteran perk doesn't just suddenly disappear as not being viable because it doesn't increase along with the stun and flash buff. What I really think is a pointless change is that they increased the fall damage reduction for Mountaineer perk. They went from 33 to 35% reduction. 2%, baby. 2%. All right, now moving on to the new gameplay features. Now I like what they did with this is that they had added these additional new gameplay features, but they didn't change the core modes. These changes are only going to be reflective in the limited time mode Clash. That way they can test these new features and see if it's going to be well received from players. I'm guessing that if players really do like these changes, they're going to add it into the main mode. So starting with the door barricades, essentially it's just locks that you can place on single or double doors that it requires an enemy player to either shoot it, hit it with an explosive, hit it with a melee in order to break the barricade first to get through that door. So this, this equipment allows for more strategical plays, allows for better chokeholds, creates good escapes, especially if you're trying to get away from an enemy team. It kind of holds them up a bit. So in my opinion, I think the door barricade is good. The only thing that I can see that it might be an issue is the installation time. Like if there's an animation to put the lock on that door and that animation is say 5 seconds or even 3 seconds, that is way too long and the enemy team is already going to catch up to you and take you down way before you can get that barricade down. Then we got another feature here which I'm not much of a fan of, honestly. It says coughing and gas will now have you show up on the map as a red dot. Now, when you hear coughing in the gas, it's very easy to tell which direction they're coming from, to be honest, because the gas already shows what direction it's closing from. If you hear coughing, of course, you're going to turn in the direction where the gas is closing from. Now, the players need an additional marker on the map to indicate where they are specifically. I don't know. I just think that for players who really don't have awareness or really don't know how to check for sound cues, I guess it's gonna help them, but how much help do you really need, guys? Come on. And another feature they're gonna add in is that now players who spawn in the gulag will spawn with also 1 plate of armor. They explained that by adding this 1 plate of armor, this mitigates the extreme situations where the TTK is so fast that some players just don't have time to react. But honestly, I think we go back to the coughing and gas and showing up on the map. It's really a skill issue. Gulag is supposed to be extreme. You have no armor, you have 1 life. Whoever has the better reaction, who has the better aim, is going to win that gulag. All right, let's head on over to my Google Docs because I like to type out the notes of all the weapon changes that are going to be happening. So let's start with the AR. The main changes with the AR is that all ARs are now going to have a bullet velocity increase. The attachments for AR, such as the CHF barrel, marksman foregrip, heavy, and combat stock, all received buffs, so that way these attachments are now more viable to use when you're making your AR builds. But overall, there hasn't been really much of a change with the ARs. Like, the only AR that got buffed is going to be the AIM S85, and that's a mobility and handling buff, not a damage buff. The AIM S85 needs a damage buff. It's essentially like the MCW all over again. Some ARs did get nerfed though. The AMAX, unfortunately, even though it already has a higher recoil compared to the Kilo, they essentially increased the recoil even more, so I don't know why they did that. And the Kilo also had a recoil increase too, which makes sense because the Kilo was already super easy to control recoil wise, that they had to make it more challenging by increasing the recoil, so totally fine with that change. Moving on to the SMGs, what they did is that they increased the max, mid, and minimum damage range for all of the SMGs to kind of make them more viable in close and medium range gunfights. The SMGs that got buffed is going to be the Jacko, which has a damage multiplier increase and ADS speed increase. The Compact 92 has a damage multiplier increase, sprint to fire, and ADS speed increase. Then we also have the PPSH, has a sprint to fire and ADS speed increase. There hasn't been any SMGs that have been nerfed for season 4. Now moving on to the LMGs. LMGs, they added an additional 12% more flinch when you're shooting enemy players. So the LMGs had a weird thing this season 4. Like, they had buffs and nerfs at the very same time, so I don't know if these buffs were good enough to actually make them better to use now, or essentially kept them in the same spot because there's just as much nerfs. Like, all of their damage has been reduced, but all of their damage ranges has been increased. Then you have their damage multipliers reduced, but their movement and handling has been better. But other than that, based on the notes, there hasn't been any LMGs that looks like it's gonna be a meta or nerfed to the ground, because all of these changes happen to all of the LMGs. Also for the marksman rifles, there's 0 changes on there, 0 changes on the shotgun. I think the Maelstrom was the only one that had changes. And then for snipers, the only sniper that has been buffed for season 4 is going to be the AMR mod 4. Damage range and damage multiplier increase, and it also said in the notes that if it is a headshot, that is also going to be a one-shot kill. So I guess they're trying to add variety to the one-shot snipers, right? The HDR was the only one. Now there's a possibility that with a little bit more precision, the AMR mod 4 can be a one-shot. But honestly guys, that's all we have for season 4. We have 3 new weapons, 1 new limited time mode, we have another casual mode, we have resurgence rank, which we've already had before, and 1 POI change. And guess what? Reading through the notes, no changes on the anti-cheat, no additional improvements, no results from testing any security features in season 3 like they said they were going to do, because they said something about they were going to test anti-cheat changes in season 3 but give us the results in season 4, which we don't have anything. I don't know, maybe they're going to announcement on season 4 day to hype up the update even more, but the fact that nothing at all is being talked about in regards to the anti-cheat in the patch notes, it's not looking so good. But other than that guys, that's all that we have for season 4. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy the content, if you did enjoy the video, please drop a like to the video. It's going to help the channel tremendously, and also drop a sub to the channel if you did enjoy the content overall. We would love to have you join the community. All right guys, stay pure, stay noble, have a blessed day. Noble out.